Welcome to episode 9 of Dungeon Crawl Talk Soup, the podcast. In this episode, I talk with my friend Chad about all things cyberpunk. Movies, books, comic books, music. I mean everything. And no fear hiatus this episode. Enjoy. In case this is your first time watching Dungeon Crawl Talk Soup, my show is one part podcast with my friends, one part perilous permadeath gaming challenge. Mostly I chat with my friends about a topic they love, but rarely get the chance to talk about at length, but at the same time, I'm trying to get my first win at Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. The catch is, if my character dies, the episode ends. Hope you enjoy the show.
That they can
and
hear us.
We're live. Now they can hear us. And we're live. That's your cue, everybody.
We are live. Interesting. Okay, well we'll have to address any questions as they come in, if and when they come in.
Exactly. I have
Cool.
I have one or two other friends that come and ask or chat and talk with me besides you. I think last time, last episode, you came into the episode like
I think it was like halfway, right?
Yeah, but it was like 2 minutes after my other listener quit listening for the day.
Was it your dad?
No.
No?
I like my dad to come watch, but he hasn't yet.
Yeah?
No, my friend Brenner comes in and watches
Oh, okay.
very often. Yeah.
I saw Brenner's comments when I got in there.
Okay, got it. So they're there.
I kind of was like, oh, okay. I saw the action.
Somebody's been here with action, yeah. Okay, so welcome to the show, Chad. Okay, say hi to everybody in the internet.
Hey, interwebs. I'm Chad. I'm Travis's friend, and I'm very honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming. This is episode 9 of Dungeon Crawl Talk Soup. I'm your host, Travis. Now, in case this is your first time here, the premise is that I'm going to chat with my friend Chad about whatever topic he chose. He told me ahead of time what we were going to talk about, which I'm very excited about, but sometimes I don't know ahead of time. And then while that's happening, I'm going to play Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. And if I die playing Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, the episode ends. We're just going to stop talking to all of you, and Chad and I are going to go do some other stuff, and then that's the end of the show. The interesting thing for you to know, Chad, although I think you know this, because you watched the last episode, we have 2 episodes under our belt playing as this specific character, as Beef Boterham V.
Okay.
Beef Boterham V is in his 3rd episode, but the thing is, we haven't gotten that far because during the last episode, I took a long, what we have now called a fear hiatus.
Because you didn't want to kill your character.
Because I didn't want to die. I wanted the conversation to go on longer. We started a fear hiatus. We're not going to do a fear hiatus tonight, okay? So if I start to get into trouble...
We're doing it live.
We're going to do it live, and the episode will end when it ends, and then you and I will go talk and do whatever we want after the show.
Okay.
I'm not going to hang up on you.
That sounds fair. Just so I know, I mean, like, as you know, I'm somewhat familiar with the game. I've played it a few times. What floor are you on?
That's a great point. So I was going to bring that up, that Chad is the one person in my life, that I've exposed this game to, and I think I briefly got him minorly addicted to it. And
I
I'd
haven't
love
played
to hear
a bit, but yeah.
how far you went down the rabbit hole. But but to answer your question, I'm on floor 6 of D6, so I haven't even made it to the Lair yet.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Our boy here has a really sweet amulet called the Amulet of Tajathriel. Pretty cool. Let's look at it closer.
You nailed that pronunciation.
Yeah, the first time.
First
time.
Yeah, first time.
The Slay is really good. Adds accuracy and damage to melee weapons.
Oh,
That's
cool.
great.
Okay.
Big problem is it prevents most forms of teleportation, so we have to be very careful not to get too close to any dudes, because they will... I won't be able to escape as easily.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right, I'm up to speed on this.
I also have a pair of kinky boots. We've talked about these kinky boots quite a bit. They're not special. I've talked about the boots a lot, and I love them.
Yeah.
They are
great
red.
Musical as well. Yep.
Bright red boots. Yes,
yeah.
Great musical. I haven't seen it, but I've been informed I'm supposed to go see it.
Must see.
And we will really quickly use this identity scroll to find out what I'm looking for. A curing potion, but I also want a acquirement scroll. What do you think? Which one should I choose?
Yeah, so I'm looking at these. It's kind of like you have no idea because it's all procedurally generated, right?
Yes, the only thing we know is it's not the things we've already found.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not heal wounds.
Let's KY, huh? Okay. Maybe let's do the Evu route.
Evu route, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, enchant weapon. That's a nice one. Let's use it right now.
Ooh.
Yes.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Okay, we're getting stronger. Here we go.
Okay. Yeah.
We're glowing now. We're glowing red.
Nice. Hell yeah.
So I wandered you down the rabbit hole of Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup a little bit at some point. How far did you get addicted?
Well, I think I did three. I did 3 characters. I don't know. Do you want to call them sprites, tunes, however you want to call it? I think the furthest I got was down to the 7th level of the dungeon, and I also was playing Minotaur, and I remember having a ton of buffs and was slaughtering everything, and I was like, I can go to the end of the game at this rate. I thought I was invincible, and then I think like 30 seconds later, I was completely dead.
Yes,
because I was just swarmed with mobs. So
it can happen fast.
I was like, I guess I should have listened to Travis when he told me about this, but it's tough, but it's fun, and I actually really want to hop back in now that we're looking at it again and try something else. I think I tried another species as well.
One of my favorite species to play is the octopode. It's a
octopus and a toad.
It's an octopus, humanoid octopus. I think, and it has 8 limbs, so you can wear 8 rings. But you can't put on any armor or anything because none of the armor fits it. So it's very squishy and very easy to defeat, except for that you can put on all sorts of rings.
But it has like 8 buffs going on.
Yeah, it can have 8 buffs,
like passive buffs or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I might try that, actually.
But it's really tough. It's in the tough list, so you gotta be careful.
Nice.
So I'm gonna wander around a while, and I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go slowly though, not gonna like rush things, but I'm not gonna take a fear hiatus this time. But I'd still reserve the right to forget that I'm playing the game, which is what I consistently do.
Yeah, maybe my goal is to have you so wrapped around my finger that you don't even remember to play the game, and then we can talk forever.
Well, that speaks to what the point of this show is that like I want to have conversations with my friends about the thing that they could absolutely rant about for long periods of time. And that brings us to the fact that what you told me that you wanted to have said rants about. And I want to just really briefly, before you bring up your rant topic, I said to you, well, I'm sure you have people around you that let you talk about your topics quite a bit, and your wife Terry lets you talk to her about all the topics, so I'm sure that happens. And you said, not so much.
I can, let me explain that before we hop in here.
Okay.
So, yes, asterisk, like with an asterisk next to it. So mostly no, but if it's a currency in our house. Like storytelling is a currency in our house. Terry loves telling stories. Terry, my wife. She loves telling stories. She will watch a movie but have read everything about it from the director to the actor's hometown.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
Birthplace, right? But she and I don't have a lot of interests that cross. We have some, but like when it comes to some of the nerdy, I'm a huge geek, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love nerdy stuff. And Terry, she likes like Marvel movies and action movies, things like that. But she's more into like K-pop and Taylor Swift and a lot of those types of things. So
an earlier story on the show, I talked about going to a K-pop night outing with Terry. So
yeah, I remember that night. You guys brought home. We'll just go on. Anyway, so I will. So Terry loves telling stories. I love telling stories as well. If people are interested, but sometimes there's not really an audience. So I make a deal with Terry. I'll listen to her stories if she will listen to mine.
I think the phrasing of calling it a currency in your house is so perfect. I've witnessed this exact thing. The fact that you two are very giving of your time to listen to each other's stories, even though those stories are not in each other's genre, and you listen and want.
Yep.
And I actually this is actually a little bit of an inspiration for the show too, of the way that the two of you will actually, I don't know, invest in the topics, and just on like every day. Having the way of investing in each other's topics, even though I know she does not care about your geeky thing or whatever thing we did, that day. We went to a comic book store, which is the world's largest comic book store, or something.
God, that was amazing.
It was so incredible. I saw
Mile High Comics.
A $500,000 comic book on the shelf, and we told her the whole story. We told her all these little mini bits about the story and stuff, and she listened the whole way through. I think my wife just like left the room as soon as the story started. She
might have like tucked and rolled out of the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Terry's good about that, but it depends because there's an entertainment factor to it, right? So anyway, if I listen, she'll be like, "Can I tell you?" She always prefaces, "Can I tell you about this?"
Yes,
and sometimes I'm like, "Yeah," I'm like, "No, you can't. I don't want to hear about that shit." Like, no, I don't. She's like, "Can I tell you about?" What was a good one recently? She's like, "Can I tell you about?" Oh God, what was it? Can I tell you about the new bra that Kim Kardashian came out with? I'm like, no.
Not that one.
But I managed to, catch that anyway through osmosis. But anyway, so
okay. So what? Tell me about the bra. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Someday Terry can come on and tell me all about the Kardashian.
That might
bras.
be Terry's topic.
And that day, I will listen and I will love it. Because that's the premise. I want to hear the stories and I want to hear about things that you love.
Well, the origin of that rule, I suppose, was that we were driving one time from Cape Cod back to New York when we were living in Brooklyn, and I told Terry the entire lore of Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, we're gonna have that conversation too, right?
No, we're not having that conversation right now. But that was a 6-hour storytelling session for her, pretty much. So I basically am kind of in debt, still in her debt.
Oh, you banked. So you took out a big loan. You took out a massive mortgage.
Exactly.
And you're listening to bra stories for the next
I'm not
200
gonna put people through that. But one thing I've been wanting to talk about is the cyberpunk genre.
I can't wait. I'm so excited to have this full conversation about the cyberpunk genre. I know only a little bit, but a lot of it has been through stuff that we've done together. And then recently I read a book, 2 cyberpunk books this year, interestingly enough. And I have a ton of questions for you about cyberpunk, and I want to get started on that. Before we do, I just want to give one quick update in the game here.
Yeah,
no, I'm not about to die.
Okay.
Usually when I give an update about the game, people think that I've died. Oh, you're going to watch this time.
I'm watching it, yeah.
Most people... it's totally optional whether you watch.
You can narrate what's happening, though.
So this is the exciting part, is that if you watched episode 8 of Dungeon Crawl Talk Soup, you saw that we came upon this triple door here before, and I told Kelly that I was like, nope, that's a bad guy room. I'm not going in there. That's too scary.
Yep.
Lo and behold, we've opened the door, and we have found the shrine to the god of choice, the one and only Akuaru. And Akuaru is the only god that we will pray to in Dungeon Crawl Talk Soup. We will always be a minotaur, we will always be a fighter, and we will always go for Akuaru as our god, because he is the god of war, the god of battle, and he loves squishing things, and so do we. So we already worship Akuaru. The lore, in my opinion, is that Beef Boterham already worships Akuaru. He just hasn't gained the powers and gotten Akuaru to notice him yet. So
he hasn't noticed me, senpai, right?
Yes, exactly. He hasn't noticed me.
Okay. Yeah.
And so once we get Akuaru in love with us enough, he will grant us a choice of weapons once, and grant us a choice of armor once. And throughout the thing, he'll also grant us throwing weapons as we go along. And he speeds us up sometimes, and he gives us temporary skills. And on the rare occasion, Akuaru will let us enter into single combat with a foe, and that is, I'm not going to use that very often, but that's a very fun moment when that happens. So
does that give you buffs like a 1v1 kind of situation?
It literally warps you out of the level you're in with the monster of your choice in sight, and then you just 1v1 that monster. And if you win, then they'll warp you back. If you lose, then you're dead.
Wow, it's like I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm all in for that guy right there. Okay. It's like you point at him. It's like the Hulk Hogan point after he gets up and points right at the guy. You!
Called shot, yeah.
Called shot, exactly. So yeah, we're joining.
Nice.
We're
Okay,
fun.
cool. Well, yeah. Thanks for not updating us that you're dead
You're welcome. Because
and not actually not being dead.
okay, so I'm excited to talk to you about
Yeah.
cyberpunk. I think the best place to start is for you to tell me how it came into your life. Like, where did it start for you?
Yeah. So I guess I didn't really know what the word cyberpunk was. I guess but I was a fan before I knew what the word cyberpunk was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
I was a
What?
fan of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
yeah.
things were
I
you
think
fun of?
well, the first thing one of my first memories in this we were talking about I think we were talking about this movie not too long ago. RoboCop was one of the first movies I ever saw as a kid, and I was like 5 or 6.
RoboCop is a work of art.
It's so good.
It's
Yeah.
set in Detroit.
Yep.
If you're crazy enough to think that RoboCop is not a work of art, then you haven't watched it as an adult. It is the perfect anti-capitalist, like anti-dystopian like world movie.
Mm,
It's so wonderful in its subversiveness. And
mm.
it's of course it's gory action and that's fantastic and everything, but it's just so wonderful. Also, I really like the one with Joel Egerton, or is that his name?
Nope. Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman is very very close. I was so close.
Mm,
Joel Egerton is a
mm.
director of some sort.
Joel Edgerton
Oh,
is
it's
another.
Edgerton.
Yeah, Joel Edgerton's another actor, but I like his
I don't
stuff.
think
But
it's Joel.
we're gonna
Joel
go down a
Kinnaman.
rabbit hole of like this person is Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, we're not gonna go down that whole rabbit hole.
It's like, who is this person and how do you say that name? No, I have thoughts on that, by the way.
Okay, go on. Start there.
But
It's okay. We'll come back.
I'll come back to RoboCop and why
Okay.
I don't like that movie, but I don't want to go too deep on that
Got it. Okay.
because I could talk the entire episode about that.
So
alone.
RoboCop was
Yeah.
one of the early influences. What
RoboCop,
else?
yep. I mean, it goes back. My dad is a nerd too, so like my dad's total geek. He would like show me all the stuff that I'm not supposed to watch. My dad is hard sci-fi, like Star Trek fan, Star Wars, like everything. RoboCop, Terminator, like everything you can think of. Ridley Scott movies, all that stuff. So like my dad was, and my parents were separated, so my dad would show me all the bad shit, and my mom would get mad. That's like a TLDR of. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I was exposed to a lot of this stuff growing up, and then I realized, oh, this is like, it's not quite sci-fi, right? It's like people are oppressed, and that like there's government control happening, and
Yes.
or corporate control. So that got me going, and then I started reading cyberpunk literature, and I remember you read Neuromancer this year, right?
I did. Yes.
Yeah, so that was like that's my favorite book of all time. So if that kind of informs how passionate I am about this entire subject. Neuromancer was like, okay, this has everything that I want. It has the high tech, low life, right?
Yes.
It has like a rebellious use of technology. I would classify these tropes, like themes around humanity and what it is to be human. Those
Yes.
types of things. And for some, like I gravitate towards that stuff. Like I think growing up, I was a rebellious person, and I was in a punk band and stuff. And I've always been fascinated by that underbelly of society and that kind of like the places where people don't normally shine a light, what's going on there. And I really love like sci-fi too. So it just kind of marries all those things together of like, that it's a convergence of things I really love.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, that was kind of like where, and I've been consuming that media ever since.
So did Neuromancer? Did you get a hold of that in high school?
Yeah, I did. You know what's funny? I read that, and then like right after that, I read Dune.
Okay.
And those are two of my favorite books I've ever read.
Absolutely.
So like, makes sense, right? Very
Yes.
formative years.
But they go different directions, and it's not to say that you're
Yeah,
not a
for sure.
fantasy person, but cyberpunk reigns supreme.
I wouldn't go that far actually. Like I think I hold fantasy on an equal pedestal.
Oh, okay, okay.
I
But
think
cyberpunk gets taught. You get less chance to talk about it at length.
No one. Well, I think fantasy is a little bit more prolific, right?
Right now,
Fantasy's
yeah, absolutely. It's very tops.
Yeah, and fantasy is like if you zoom out, that's an encapsulating genre. I would say
Absolutely.
there's fantasy, sci-fi, cyberpunk to me is a sub genre of sci-fi, right?
Yep.
But I would argue, and we'll get into this maybe as well. You're not dead, right? Oh, you got
No.
dragon scales.
I got these dragon scales that are going to give me poison resistance, which poison has been my bane. Ooh, it's there. It's yellow. And I got a broad axe of flaming, which is going to be way better than this war axe.
Holy
so war
crap.
axe is...
Nice.
I almost died to that last character, Maggie.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, I saw that. It was quick.
I did fine, though. So it's 0.23, and I want to get to 16 for that. This is minus 2.28, so it's a little bit hits harder, but it also has flame, which will do 1/4 damage in addition. We want to get to 18 for this, so I'm going to...
Okay.
But I do want to get a little more throwing and a little more invocations first. What I'll do is, once the throwing is to 5 and the invocations are to 5, we'll add some axes into the mix. Whoops, that's all right. We would be doing invocations forever. L5 dot 0.
And what do the invocations do?
This is okay. So when Akuaru likes us enough, he'll let us.
Yep.
He'll let us gain great but temporary skills, and it'll last longer if our invocations are higher. So if I have very low invocation skills, he'll still let us do it, but it won't last very long. It'll only last like a minute or so.
So it's like a magical endurance kind of thing.
It's like a god endurance, because there's other stuff for magic. This is specifically for your god skills.
Gods.
Yeah, for Akuaru, the god of smashing.
He's
shit.
literally the god of war, right? Like boy.
I think god of battle, but yeah.
Okay.
God of battle, but pretty much. I think there is another god of war, but he likes battle, and he does require you fight on your own, so no allies. But anyway, Neuromancer is great. So I read that earlier this year. I loved it, and you have those awesome figures in your room.
Yeah, I do. I love.
Can you send me pictures of your Neuromancer figures so I can slice them into the episode?
Absolutely. I made some custom Neuromancer, like 12-inch figures or 6-scale figures. Thanks, man. Awesome. Yeah. Since you've been here, I think I actually have RoboCop now in the collection as well. But
I'll take that picture too.
A couple other things. Yeah, I'll take some pictures. But yeah, what I was saying is I would argue that, and William Gibson has a quote that's really good. William Gibson, the author of Neuromancer, he said something like, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed."
Absolutely. Okay, that's a real current events AI thing too.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's really interesting about cyberpunk, right? Like it's got so much tangentiality to current life.
Well, it's all. I think it's rooted in the human, like the idea of human relationship with technology, and it touches everything from romance to education, the way we communicate, the way we even look at each other, right?
Yeah.
And see pictures of each other. It's like so pervasive, and so it's like, is it really futurism now? Like, I think back in the 60s and 70s during the new wave sci-fi movement, it was definitely rooted, that's rooted in futurism. If you think about this idyllic future, right?
Yep.
But I think cyberpunk is it's near future now, or if not,
totally.
I mean, you've seen that proliferation happen. And I have one example for you that it's pretty evident of this. Remember when we had cell phones and no one had them, and now homeless people have cell phones?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. The proliferation of technology is where the end game is here, and we're so hyper obsessed with attention gathering and consumerism and instant gratification through communication that we're there.
Yeah, totally. There's a pin. There is a AI that you can wear on your shirt now. A humane pin, and it's just an AI that walks around with you and answers questions for you. Bing style, right there, live with you in person.
Wow!
They just announced this recently.
You don't even need a brain anymore.
No, You
Like
can,
literally.
well, but my point is simply that it's
Yeah.
like it's very
It's there.
pervasive, yeah, and it's
It's
where,
press. It's right next to your soul,
yeah.
right?
Do you
Um,
think there are? Do you think of things in the cyberpunk, like I don't know, genre or mythos that you have experienced that we're still very very far away from?
well, okay. So two things. One, let me draw a very important distinction because I think so far we haven't actually talked about cyberpunk. We've only talked about the technology,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
And so if you think, how does that come to life? I think there are elements of that in modern day, like hacking groups, hacktivists, things like that, where it's kind of like this is happening right now. Is it? Are you asking like, is there a seminal work that I always reference as the primo example of what cyberpunk is?
What I was asking is there a specific thing that pops out to you as being a technology that you think
Hmm.
is cool part of cyberpunk that's like that we're just not anywhere near. Uh, like so much
Oh,
of it, like you said, is
yeah.
not that far in the distant future.
Yeah, I think you know what? Like, I don't think we're quite at the level. Did you ever see Altered Carbon or read any of that? Like, there's a. Have you ever read that or
Um,
watched it? Are you
no,
familiar with it?
what's I know a
Yep.
little bit of it. It's
Okay,
cloning,
I
right?
can. I can. It's yeah. So basically, the idea is like your personality exists in this needle, and they can cast it to different planets, and then they inject you into different sleeves. So you're basically like you don't have a corporeal form anymore. You are just a personality on a disc that transitions between uh, different vessels, and older people back up uh, their memories, I guess, and the super rich can afford to have multiple copies of them at different points in their life.
Oh, I see.
And I don't think we're at the point where we can hard copy people's minds onto a. Well, you know what? I think we're at a point to there, but I'm not sure about injecting it and removing that from a body.
Totally.
Honestly, though, if we copied someone's personality, like, and put it into a machine, I mean, I don't think we're that far from that either, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
it sounds
Now that
like
I think
that.
about it,
So that's
like
why I asked the
I
question the
can't
way that
think
I
of anything.
did. I was
Yeah,
like, it's
like wait, no,
incredible
that's not
how
true. We're
close
almost
we are
there.
to possibly all these things,
Yeah.
happening. I
Hmm.
wonder, and that makes me wonder who can even propose things that are still, wildly futuristic. The way that, as you said, in the early parts of this genre, they were saying things
Hmm.
that were wildly futuristic when Neuromancer came up in the '80s, right? Like that
Yeah.
was still 40 years ago. So,
Yeah.
um,
But what
okay.
coincided with was with that movement? You got to remember was also the punk movement,
Okay. So let's talk
and
about that
so
side of this
yeah.
specific genre. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say like some of the hallmark tenets of the genre would be the rebellious spirit and rebellious use of technology, right?
Yep. I
But the
love that phrase.
rebellious,
I never heard it used
yeah.
before. You just brought it up a few minutes ago.
Oh, really? Okay. Um, and the rebellious spirit of the punk rock movement,
Of
obviously,
course.
emerging through the same era, like characterized by anti-establishments, like you know, even globally, like Sex Pistols to Ramones to
Yep.
like Clash and things like that. So like, you know, if you think about how that spirit was being ignited, marrying that with technology was natural, and the stories that came out of that, the whole cyberpunk genre came out of that early '80s, uh, I guess, fascination or stories centered around anti-heroes or like marginalized individuals who were, putting their middle finger up to the corporations or the system, and using their technological skills to challenge, I guess, the status quo.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I think there's so many cool themes in there too: alienation, identity, the human condition. I think I was talking about a lot of those things before, but I to the question before, I think we, and it's just so ingrained with the genre. Like punk is just so ingrained with the genre as well. Even the fashion, like you could have a whole conversation
Absolutely.
around um, how fashion has been incorporated into these things too. Um,
I think the
and just
fashion
like
is super critical to cyberpunk.
yeah,
It's such a big cornerstone of what makes it interesting and unique, and
yeah,
but it also speaks to exactly what you're saying of the counterculture of it,
yeah.
um, of the whole thing. Do you think
But
that the early So it's not, that was going to be a dumb question. I was going to say, do you think that the early writers in the genre or creators in the genre were anxious to demonstrate that punk side of it, or were they just? I guess I was gonna ask, were they just like taking advantage of it? But they were like punks trying to speak their own language through novelization or through comic books or through film.
Yeah. So there's a couple other authors that are really big. Bruce Sterling, um, and Walter John Williams, who is he wrote a book called Hardwired that around that time, and they were all like, yeah, they were all influencing each other, but yeah, they were tapping into the counterculture elements that you were referencing within sci-fi. So it was kind of like a post new wave sci-fi movement towards that was focused more on rebellion.
Yeah.
But yeah, even like William Gibson is also a big like fashion person as well, and reading through his books, you'll just see a lot of references to a lot of like fashion, Japanese fashion, sunglasses, mirror shades, shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's just part of like a lot of it is just stylistic technobabble. I mean, like think about some of the company names that came out of just that novel. Microsoft actually that the name of Microsoft came from that novel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's like little things like that, or even the Matrix and like words like that, or
course.
the internet. Yeah. So yeah, I think, but it's again that stuff all started as just technobabble. It doesn't mean anything, and that's kind of funny. It's kind of like F you, technology people. Like we can name things whatever we want.
It does speak to that. There's a lot of like Silicon Valley people who, in their youth, like grew up in this stuff and tried to be something different. And a lot of them are the corporate overlords now, but they, they
Why do you
came
think
up
they
inside
named it
of this.
Microsoft? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they got the name from the novel.
Right, totally.
Like, I mean, I think you see, like, there was a magazine in the 80s called Omni Magazine, and that's where a lot of these these short stories started. So, have you heard of Johnny Mnemonic?
Yes, I love that film. It's a book too or something, right?
Okay, well, let's go there.
Get into it. Yeah,
go there for a second. Yeah, so obviously Keanu Reeves is amazing, but he's always Johnny, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so Johnny Mnemonic was a short story first, but the movie pulled a lot of stuff from Neuromancer, and actually one of the characters in Johnny Mnemonic, the girl lead, who is like kind of a badass edge runner type. She was in. I can't remember her name, but she was inspired by Molly Millions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the other way. I thought you were saying the Neuromancer character is Molly. Yeah.
Yeah, Molly. Yeah, I think she might have even been named Molly in Johnny Mnemonic. I can't remember, but anyway, yeah. So that directly like that pulled a ton of stuff from a lot of like seminal sci-fi things, including dolphins being able to like speak with these machines on their head and crazy shit like that.
That's
it's like,
crazy. I forgot about that. That's such a
yeah,
great part.
right. Yeah, and I think Henry Rollins was in that movie as well as like this tech doctor who could like enhance your body and stuff, and it was just a wildly amazing movie. But yeah, all of that stuff just came from like these crazy short stories where these guys were like, what if people used the same technology we were looking at like Star Trek and used it to like fight against oppression or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, not necessarily fight against oppression, although I guess they kind of did, but it's sort of like live outside of the existing oppression. So that's one of the things I think is interesting about cyberpunk is that there is sort of a not an anti-establishment, but a like accepting of the horrific, like entrenchment of corporate, of corporate leadership over all of us.
Yeah,
and that's essentially real.
Yeah,
and these people live in that, but then they're just like, but I'm going to figure out ways to go around it and fight my way past the ICE and all the like cybersecurity that these people have, and it's really fun to watch the heist movie essentially, because that's what the Neuromancer is, right? It's essentially a heist movie.
Yeah,
but
Straight Light Run.
Yeah, but it's in a cyberpunk world.
But yeah, and that's the application of the ideas as well. And I think that's also, I mean, corporations, government, even going further than that. Like one of my favorite games of all time is Deus Ex, and that explores like what do we know is in front of us is actually real and not being manipulated by the shadows, the things that lurk in the shadows, the authority that lurks in the shadows, the Illuminati, right?
Yep.
So I kind of love that idea that of like we're so wrapped up and wrapped around being controlled that we don't even know what's happening, and that's kind of cool, like cool and scary idea as well. But all of that anchors in this technological integration or incorporation with like man versus machine, and that enable us to be manipulated because we've given up too much of our humanity? And I think that's a really cool question.
Yes. Tons of great philosophical questions for us to continue to cross paths with. But I'm going to interrupt you just for a moment for you to choose another.
Let's do it.
Choose another potion or choose another scroll to.
Yep. Well, I was looking at this D because it has a funny word in the second word, and I was like, I like that.
Tito,
Tito's.
It's almost
Yeah.
titty. Okay,
I
that's
think
cool.
These Titos will give you big old hittos. So
All right, let's
do
go.
that one.
Boom.
Yep.
Scroll of Blinking. Those are great. Those are good end game scrolls.
Teleport kind of thing?
It's like teleporting, but it's random and it's immediate. The teleport scroll is not immediate. It takes 3 or 4 turns to kick in, and it goes much further away than the blink does. I'm sorry, I had that backwards. The teleport is random. The blink, you get to choose where you go to. The problem is that if this amulet again is helping us a lot, but I probably won't be able to teleport using it, so I'll have to take it off at some point.
I
okay.
see.
So,
okay, cool.
So I want to squeeze in a quick conversation about Deus Ex because you brought that up. I have never played it. Tell me what's awesome about Deus Ex. Besides, I guess the genre itself is great, but I've never played it. Yeah, tell me why.
Yeah, the game genre in itself, it's one of the first what I would consider immersive sims. So if you think of like games like Skyrim, Fallout, Thief, like any games that have like very interactable environments, things like that, but also choice and consequence.
Right.
That is one thing that Deus Ex does really well, and to this day, a lot of game developers don't really do. And I think that idea of choice and consequence lends really well to the overarching theme of cyberpunk, because it almost calls into question, like, so basically the plot is around this organization that's creating this street drug, and is trying to basically control humanity through its distribution and things like that. But it's a heavily like dystopian society. It is, I don't know, it's just a very deep plot line with a lot of twists and turns and things that you wouldn't get out of a typical game, especially for that time. And it also had like a lot of choice and consequence in the way that you approach situations too.
What platform was it originally?
Yeah, so it came out on PlayStation, or sorry, not PlayStation, PC first, but then they did eventually release it for other platforms as well.
Oh, okay, so it was PC first.
Yep, exactly, yeah. And so yeah, it's kind of cool because like the plot isn't really like it's more around like supply and demand of a certain drug. There's a synthetic drug here called ambrosia in the game that this company manufactures, and they're controlling the supply of that to manipulate people through the virus.
Those bastards.
Exactly. Yeah, I won't spoil the plot for anybody who hasn't played it, but
it's a 20+ year old game.
Yeah, I know, but if somebody hasn't heard of it, I don't want to. And then
That's
like
true.
they had a few other games after that were prequels that explored a little bit more the themes around like what it means to be human. There was like an anti-augmentation movement against humans who were augmenting themselves to enhance their performance and whatever, their day-to-day lives. So there's always this like flirtation with the idea of humanism and humanity, and where the limits of that are, which is another theme I think that's really cool.
We're gonna take on this troll.
Do it.
A little bit stronger than us.
I think you got him.
You got him. Oh wow.
You didn't even take a single hit.
I took a teeny tiny hit, but
Oh, did you?
Basically nothing.
It was
Okay.
1 pixel.
Yes. Okay. So now we're gonna do axes and get that up to 16. Oops. I think I need to get to 16 for min delay. 18 for min delay, which is 1.3. No, wait. Well, I'm at 1.3. I need to get to 0.7 so that I'm just absolutely crushing everybody. 0.7 means I'll hit,
Once
3 times
every
per 2 turns.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So...
And it's flaming, right?
It's a flaming, so that's going to be really good later if I get that far. Because it is... it's important to have a flaming weapon for when you run into Hydra. Because if you don't have a flaming weapon...
Their heads grow back.
Their heads grow back twice as many, and then they just absolutely eat you. Okay, so I need to set
That would
axes.
definitely be the end of the run.
Yes, it would. If they ate me, that would be the end of the run. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put on this on high. Then we'll add a little bit of... we're going to add a little bit of armor as well. I think that the very good players of this game recommend not training 2 things at once. But you know what? Fuck that.
Uh-oh. We're going off script.
Going off script. So, we've also crossed... do you have areas you want to take us to? Because I want to try to lead you places, but I want to make sure that
There's
you
one
have some ideas you wanted to cover.
There's one other thing I wanted to chat about, and that's like Blade Runner, one of my favorite.
So that's what I read that's another one I read this year. Those are the 2 I read this year.
I was reading about Blade Runner a few weeks ago. I've read it. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep is
right, of course,
original book. Philip K. Dick. I apparently when Philip K. Dick was researching The Man in the High Castle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember this. He was going through some like German soldiers' journals, and he came across an entry of this soldier who was writing about how annoying it was that children, or how upset he was that children were crying, keeping him up at night. And he went on to say it wasn't because of the guilt that he felt, but because it was a nuisance.
Yeah.
And so Philip K. Dick read that, and he's like, what would it feel like to be someone who's completely devoid of empathy?
Right.
Someone who's completely unfeeling. And that's the idea of the android came from that journal entry from a World War II Nazis journal. And
That's incredible.
I think, yeah. And you read the book this year.
Yes.
Yeah. What did you think?
I thought it was great. I thought that the comedic elements of it, the sheep, actually the sheep part, right, is, super, and super fascinating, and the religious guy that teaches you to keep pushing up the hill to which is again another allegory to the hopelessness of living in a corporate owned universe.
Yeah, I think that's a good read on it for sure.
Is like that stuff was super fascinating, not in the movie, right? Like very different from the movie in those senses, and that was really great.
100%.
And I really loved there was absolutely a 10-page, 15-page section in the middle where I was like, it's specifically when he runs across the other Blade Runner, and then he gets arrested, and he's being questioned, and they're about to do the void conf on him, where I felt a level of drama and fear and suspense of her, like, wait, I'm fairly, like I was like, they're gonna find out that he's about to find out that he's the replicant.
Yeah.
And
I think
and then it just flips so fast in that room, in that page, that it's like, right? I had to reread that like multiple times. I think
I remember exactly what you're talking about.
I just find that to be such a hard thing to accomplish in a book, where it's just like, wait, we just talked about this last episode with Kelly of like, wait, did I just read that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Like, am I for sure that this is the way this is going down? I thought that part was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. When did that book be published compared to like Neuromancer and?
When was Blade or when was Do Androids Dream? Well, it had to have been
Had to have
the
been-
earlier 80s because the movie was in 84. And I think it might have came out even before then because Ridley Scott was tapped to direct uh, the Dune movie in the 70s, and then it was like 10 years nothing was happening. So it was like, yeah, I think at least let's see.
Yeah, we can look this up. We're on
Yeah,
the internet
I'm just
right
gonna
now.
look at so 74. Oh my gosh, yes,
74.
Exactly 10 years before 1984 when the movie came out, and that would make sense for the timeline of Dune when he was supposed to do that 10
Right.
years. Yeah, okay, but yeah, I think like
Ooh.
a lot of the themes that you're bringing up that were more prevalent in the book around like the Sisyphean thing, the religious stuff was a
That
lot
was
more
not in
prevalent
the
in
movie
book.
at all. The question
Yeah.
of questioning one's own identity and questioning whether one is a replicant or not comes up
Yeah.
during the movie. Not nearly as overwhelmingly prevalently during as in the book, but
Yeah.
it does come up in the movie. But the Sisyphean aspect of things, it doesn't come up at all. And then the hilarity of like the obsessing over every little animal and all those different things is just
Yep.
just not very
Yeah.
not prevalent in the movie at all. So those
Well,
things were really great to like add to the mix for myself.
yeah, I feel like the book. So I had the benefit of reading the book before I saw the movie because I read the book when I was in high school and I didn't really even know that the movie was related to it.
That's
And so
incredible.
I had kind of like my own ideas of what was in my head, and I did not think of it as like a hard-boiled detective story as much as it was in the movie. But that's cool. I like that interpretation. I was more like thinking that humans are trying to prove their humanity by taking care of these mechanical pets. I was kind of thinking it's like because you think about it, the Voight comp test that you were talking about, it's an empathy test, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
also like the wife is plugged into the machine as well. And it's like an empathy machine. It's almost like people are so in tune with technology they have to be reminded how to feel.
I think so, but I think about it more as being a social status thing of them being
Yeah,
like weirdly obsessed over it and the way that like it's the equivalent of like social media
it's
followers
that
or
too.
something.
Yeah, yeah, it totally is, and it's like, well, that owl must be expensive, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And the capitalism of like, oh my gosh, like I gotta have that, and then like I'll take out a loan to get this goat.
yeah. It's so silly, right?
It's so silly. And then they like
But
see
it's
bugs or something like that, and they're just like, whoa, a bug. It's so fantastic.
you know what? It's like that level of commentary. Think about like the things that people spend money on now,
Absolutely.
like gamer girl bathwater.
Oh God, I know. My God.
Oh, here's another one. A single spicy chip.
Wait, why?
A single spicy chip. People will spend like $12 on it.
Oh, because of how spicy it is, or just
Yep, it's
yeah.
like the one chip challenge, right?
Oh my gosh, really?
Um, yeah, I mean, just like what else people will spend their money on
And then
craziest things.
and then add on top of it also the environmentalism side of this of like
Yeah,
this is all the way that it is because of like destroying the earth. He
yep,
already wrote that in the 70s, right?
yep,
He
yep.
already prognosticated what was going to happen, and then all the animals die and stuff, and they animals have such huge currency because of them not existing and not being able to live in our shitty world
Right.
anymore. Okay,
Yeah,
wait, let me pause for a second again and talk about this shop that I'm standing in front of.
yeah,
We
yeah.
went to
Let's do
this
it.
shop called Nogubs or
Okay.
Nogebs. What do you think? Nogebs? Nogubs.
No Gibbs. Nogubs. I like
Nogubs.
Nogubs. Yeah.
Welcome to Nogub's specific store.
Right?
It's a specific store. He's got only one thing. A
It's one
whip.
thing.
It's-
Yeah.
His specific store is it's a
It's
whip
okay.
store.
If you
Just
need a whip,
whips.
he's got your back.
He's got a whip. If you need a whip at this point in the game, you need this one whip. That's great. Let's see what's at
He's
this
got your
shop
back.
real quick
Yeah.
before we go back to. Oh,
He's
this
a
is
real
a nice general
pro.
store. This is the thing we've been looking for sure. We definitely want to buy this potion of curing because then it'll identify it for us. And that's pretty much the only thing we need here. Yep. Okay. So let's see. Do we have two curing? Yes. Okay. Awesome. And then we have an identity, so it's time for you to do your part of the game again.
Yep. I'm doing my part. Let's see.
Oh, okay. Starship. Wait.
Yeah.
Starship Troopers
Starship
reference.
Troopers. You got it. Yeah.
Nice.
There you go. Yeah.
I got it.
That has a lot of those themes too. So I want to go with the first one.
Katie
Casey.
Oh, you got it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Casey Kasem.
Casey Kasem.
Let's do it.
The scroll. Enchant armor. Not bad. Let's enchant some armor.
I'm not gonna lie. Like if there was a Casey Kasem, they should make a Casey Kasem AI to just forever have his top 40 countdown. Because I remember growing up listening to that, and
a whole generation of people don't even know that he did that, and they listen to Ryan Seacrest doing it for the last, I know, right? Entire
but
generation now.
Seacrest needs to be out, as they say, right?
Seacrest out?
Yeah, Seacrest get out. That's what that means, right?
No, I don't think it is. Well, sort of. It says he's going to leave.
He's proclaiming that he's going to get out.
He's chosen to leave at this time. Seacrest is out.
Okay, I get it now. I think I always got it. Nice. I think that Okay, cool.
Okay, well, let's
You're
talk
still
about.
alive.
We're doing great. We've made it long enough that I feel like we've had a successful episode. So see you later.
We've completed an episode. So bye.
Bye.
We've solved humanity's problems through the lens of cyberpunk.
Okay, let me take us places now.
Yeah, please.
Let's talk about RPG. The RPG we got to play. The cyberpunk Netrunner. It's Android Netrunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once many years ago, Chad and I were in a D&D group, and it was going okay and stuff. And then Chad mentioned that he also had the books for Netrunner, and would love to run a game for us and our friends to try to play Cyberpunk Netrunner.
Oh, you're talking about okay. So it's Cyberpunk Red. Netrunner's
Cyberpunk
the
Red.
Netrunner's the card game in that universe.
Oh, so it's the same universe, though.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that far off, but okay. So excuse me, everyone.
Good. Yeah,
Netrunner is the card game, which I actually really enjoy, but that's not the same.
We played that as well. That's why I was confused.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we're good now. Cool.
The Cyberpunk Red, it was so great. And can you run me through, what happened there? Tell the story of it. Tell us all about our characters and stuff. And a former guest on the show was also a player.
Nice.
Michelle played with us, right? If I remember, she was
she was our Netrunner.
She was the tech. Yeah, she was the Netrunner.
Yeah, she was our Netrunner. Yep. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about. So I hope I don't confuse the plots because I'm also playing actually a game now with some people I met on Reddit.
Oh, that's amazing. So come back to our story. How far along are you? I just want to hear about this now. I'm like,
yeah, no, I can start with ours and let me just explain the game.
Okay.
And then I can explain I guess some of the loose plot or themes that come up in the game as well.
This speaks to the fact that one of the things that I struggle with as a host of this show, my wife's going to kill me over this, is that, because I'm interrupting you from telling your story, but I'm not going to play the game, so I'm not going to die in the meantime. I struggle with the fact that, what I want to do is, talk about the thing I want to talk about, right? And I want you to tell me new stuff, so I'm like, Chad, just jump to the part that I want to hear about. But the best version of the podcast is you tell us about our game first, and then you get to your current game, right? And I did want you to remind me of all the things from our game, but I'm like, part of me always wants to interrupt and be like, oh, just go to this part. I want to hear about your current game, because that's actually what would get me excited, is hearing about what you're excited about right this second, But let's do the right, proper thing. Let's at least record the part.
Yeah, you just gotta buckle up and trust that I can guide the conversation.
You can. I'm not like a toddler over here, though.
Yeah.
I can trust you. Okay, so tell me the story of our original game. I'm forgetting a lot.
Yeah, no, I
of
was gonna give it. Anyway, it's all good. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell the whole story or anything like that, but I'm gonna set the stage. So, yeah, Cyberpunk Red. I think if you boil it down to its base components, is a simpler version of Dungeons and Dragons. It's based on a 10-sided dice system. It is pretty basic, but it's lethal, and I think that's what's kind of fun about it.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, it's very quick. it's fast and loose too. Like I think there's a lot more room for fun. And one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, we kind of flirted with when we were talking about fashion, is the idea of just style over substance.
Yeah.
The prevailing principle in Cyberpunk Red is it doesn't really matter what you do, but did you look cool as fuck doing it?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you can do it. Like, it's that simple.
That's so good. You told us that right off the bat, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I love charisma-based characters, so I love when we can just, like, try to talk our way out of shit.
Exactly. So, yeah. So we gathered some friends. We had a small group of what are called edge runners, and these are people who are basically mercenaries. And they're running on the edge, right? They're living life in the fast lane. And they partner up and they do jobs, or what we call runs. And we talked about Neuromancer earlier, like the Stray Light run. It's a heist, right? It's usually it's a heist or a job or something along those lines. And of course, like in any heist, shit goes sideways fast. Things happen that you don't plan for. And as the storyteller of the game, you kind of have to balance those things out. But you also have to balance out like some of the other subsystems. For example, like one big trope in cyberpunk is net running, and that's being able to escape totally from reality and plug into another world, right?
It's an incredibly specific aspect of this RPG.
Yeah.
And this world, I mean, in this genre as well, but it's incredibly specific in this RPG and in like a Shadowrun where you just suddenly are not in the regular fight anymore, or at least one person in the room is not in the regular fight and is instead like fighting in the internet against an entirely different set of bad guys. And, and usually the rest of the people are trying to protect that person while they're trying to do their download. Meat space. Yes, I love that. I love meat space. Yes, absolutely.
So it's cyberspace versus meat space. Yeah, and you're right. And time moves at a different, like the mechanics are different. Like, but
it's an entirely different game inside there.
It's a mini game for sure, but it has a lot of the same principles. And you can die. You know, you die in the Matrix, you die in real life, right?
Yep.
That's what they say.
Very Johnny Mnemonic and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so the game, so Michelle was our netrunner, and I tried to mix up combat encounters with some netrunning fun stuff, and was using Roll20 and like tried to set up, make it nice. But I think it was more about the storytelling, and I think that's really one thing I really like is like oral tradition and stuff. But our characters were good. Remind me, your character was it the rocker boy?
The rock.
Dave was
no, he was the rocker
Dave was
boy.
the rocker boy. Yeah.
I was the more main character based, like the guns and.
You were the solo.
I was the solo, like the regular fighter style.
Yeah, the fighter. Yep. Yeah. And then we had a techie that was Anthony. Oh yeah. And we had Michelle as netrunner. Yep. So like the whole premise of our story was there was this little girl who was basically implanted with black market cyberware technology. She was the daughter of a very corrupt corporate executive who subjected her to this experiment, and he was paying a group of edge runners to track her down and bring her back. Yeah. And so there was a plot, like a subplot around with all these gangs who were trying to fight over. They had kidnapped her and they were trying to fight over custody of her. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we had like a bottle episode where there was a fun house with some puzzles and stuff. That was fun. Yeah, it was like
you did such a great job leading that. I specifically remember being blown away by the clowns gang that we were fighting against.
Yeah, the bozos.
And that's not. And you didn't like just make that up from scratch. It's something from
that's
the
an actual gang.
Well, it's an actual gang in that universe.
Yes, yeah, and so that's the.
It's not an actual game.
Goes along. Yeah, so Mike Pondsmith created the Cyberpunk Red universe, and you can, if you read through the book, he just lifted shit directly from all the literature and movies and pop culture, but he smashed it together, and he just really emphasized the overall, like, what is the most hyperbolic representation of this that we can do, and let's take it to the nth degree. So that's not the only ridiculous gang, by the way. There's another gang called the Elvises. Like, it's reminiscent of Fallout New Vegas, right?
Right.
The Kings, like.
Yep.
There's like God, there's one that's like all vampires, for example.
Okay.
And they're all, yeah. So there's a lot of funny gangs. The Bozos are another one. The funny thing is, they're not like dancing around being clowns. They're very mysterious.
Oh, totally.
And you don't see them very often. And so I tried to play that into the game. But I just love telling stories, and that was a fun experience. And honestly, I didn't realize that if anybody liked it or not.
I
just
thoroughly
it's fun for
enjoyed
me.
it. I very rarely get to play a player though too, so that was really awesome for me. And I just loved jumping around and making mistakes and stuff, and I loved the fact that you told us it's brutal, and it was totally brutal.
Yeah.
And those clowns, I just want to talk about the clowns for just a second longer, the Bozos.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very reminiscent of the Warriors to me.
Yeah, you know what? That's I hadn't thought of that, but you're absolutely right.
Is the Warriors,
You're
what type of
absolutely right.
genre or like world is that? Because that's very based in reality, isn't it? So, but
Well, yeah, I mean, like the Warriors, I would consider post-apocalyptic. Well, like it feels post-apocalyptic, but is it even?
I think it's
like
supposed to be in real life.
It's dystopian. It's like very dystopian. It feels very near future, crime-ridden, like post-law almost.
It does, but isn't that like? Isn't it also trying
like
to depict what New York actually was like in the 70s?
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, was New York actually like a brutal wasteland?
In the 70s, I think it was. That's
because
what
like
people
Escape
tell me.
from New York is another movie where I'm like, was this supposed like New York as a prison? So I'm like, was it actually like that bad? Where like there's a guy rolling around in a Cadillac with chandeliers on the thing,
Totally.
the Duke of New York. Like, I just don't know. So
People
and
that
it's
wrote
okay.
people
Yeah,
that wrote
to not
shit
know.
about New York in the 70s, Taxi Driver, all those different things, like
Yeah.
they really thought that this was a fucking wasteland. And and if my mom had any say in what it actually was, she would say yes, absolutely. It was an absolute wasteland, horrible
Oh my
place.
God.
Don't ever go there.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I hadn't lived in New York before I moved there.
Right, same, obviously. Wait,
Yeah.
you hadn't
I mean,
lived in New York before?
Oh,
you
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had not visited New York in before I moved there.
Yeah.
I'd never been. So I spent the first fucking week of my stay in New York not leaving my apartment because I thought someone was going to yell at me.
Just yell at you? Just yell at you, not like murder you.
I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
someone's going to bump into me and it's going to be over. So like, yeah, because I had heard all of this stuff about New York being an absolute like, and it was the early 2000s, like that reputation was far gone.
Far gone.
Or sorry, mid 2010s or early 2010s. So yeah, no. The perception, I guess, dictates the experience, but
it's a very different world. But I wonder whether the Warriors had any influence on that part of the genre.
oh,
That's
100%.
I am gonna take us on two slight journeys real quick.
Yeah,
Have you ever
I
heard
see
of
the
a movie? Yeah, let's talk about that first. Let's talk about what's going on
cattle
the
stack
screen.
up. Yeah.
Yo, these yak. I think these are yak. Oh, I know what's going on. So I reached level 10. For a second, I thought the thing froze, but yeah, these are all yaks, and they're all stacked up. I have been
They're all
absolutely
yacked
mauled
together.
by the yaks, and if you get into a situation where many of them are hitting you at once, you're fucked. But
I mean, there's one down there too in the darkness.
that one's not necessarily there. This is another one of those things that I have to talk
It's
about
like
a lot on the
it
show.
could be. Oh yeah, I heard about this with
When
Kelly's episode.
you can, so you
if
can
you want to
see
reiterate, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. What I can see is moving, but anything I can't see is a remnant of the last thing that I saw there. So this was there when I turned the corner up here, but it might not be there anymore. As a matter of fact, it probably isn't.
There is no yak there. There is no.
There probably
there
isn't
there.
a yak there, but the point is, it's a sort of a reminder, a glimpse of like this was there when you were there last.
I get it.
Have you ever seen a movie called I think it's called Bronx Warrior 1990? 1990 Bronx Warrior? I know you would have.
Yeah.
It's an absolute fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah, you know what? I was just watching some of it the other day. I'm not even joking.
Oh really? I haven't
'cause
thought
I
about
went
that
on a-
movie in a long time, but I went out and bought it for like $35 offline like 10 years ago or something, just so I would never not have it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
such a brilliant masterpiece.
There's this like pocket there where it's like this almost I think you know what? I think it was driven by Mad Max's popularity.
Absolutely.
Now, definitely, like when Road Warrior came out, all of these like clone movies of this like badass dude with no, like the man with no name.
Yep.
He would roll into town,
Like
but the setting was
a
just
western turned into sci-fi.
yep, western into sci-fi. But it was like there was something more to it. It was like very like the women were very male gaze, scantily clad.
Yep.
The men were like also very male gaze of like if like a 12-pack,
Absolutely.
oiled up. But the funny thing is like that I feel like that aesthetic was so bizarre to see translated to the post-apocalyptic setting because it's like wouldn't you want to be like kitted up, armor, helmet maybe, like, or are you running around with a wasteland like scrap sword?
And you're like having a belly shirt, so I can see your abs.
Exactly. Yeah. There's some there's some wild movies that came out of that era.
I would love to watch more of them, but Bronx Warrior 1990 has got to be near the top of the list. It's one of the best. Okay, but that's a wild tangent, and I apologize.
It's not that bad because it's still a pocket of what we're talking about, which is, I think, post what would happen post cyberpunk society, which was be the apocalypse, right? So.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Is Streets of Fire also in this genre?
Streets of Fire.
Do you not know this one? This is you got to get in there.
No, I've seen it. No, I've seen it. But I'm
asking.
trying to think of like, is it in this genre? I think there are certain elements of it.
Okay,
sure.
This is a genre called neo-noir.
Yeah, it's like I think that's where we're talking about more of like the Blade Runner direction where and when I zoom out of sci-fi, like Streets of Fire kind of falls into that crime driven kind of movie.
Yep.
But there's two
noir,
cyberpunk noir, there's two cyberpunk. Some people are like it has to have rain. It has to have neon. it has to have like smoke and it has to have like a all of those noir elements are compulsory. But I don't think those actually existed until after Blade Runner. But Blade Runner was so seminal in what I would consider the noir genre that Streets of Fire drew heavily from that. But that's definitely a neo-noir film.
Yeah.
It's not, I wouldn't say cyberpunk, but yeah.
What about let's talk about some recent cyberpunk stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's talk about 2077.
Yeah. We can talk about 2077. I think it was a really good. I think it's good now. It wasn't when it came out.
But that's a buggy related thing, right?
Yeah. But I think the story was always good. And I think that they did a really good job of presenting something new and different, but still speaking to some of those underlying themes. So, and of course, Keanu's in it, and he's Johnny again.
He's always
Johnny. He was great, but he did a really good job. And yeah, I love the idea of like having this ghost in the machine, right? The ghost in your head.
Yep.
Of a dead rock star. That's just such a cool.
That's absolutely great.
Cool fucking like trope.
But I want to say that I think that you coming down on the level of it's good is a real indictment of the game. Because I remember you being quite excited about it.
I think it's way better now than I think it's exceeded my expectations now. So
okay.
Whereas before I thought it was a good game,
Okay.
but now I think it's an amazing game. And I don't know if you've kept up with it, but long story short, they rebuilt the entire game from the ground up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like
that's so funny.
They have like an active police system. Like they have transmog system, so you can like the style over substance stuff, right? You can change your character's look. They redid the entire skill tree system. Like the entire skill system's different. They completely revamped all the AI, so like it feels much more engaging and immersive.
Okay.
And you could like sometimes I'll just pop in the game and walk around and do stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're still getting in there some.
Oh yeah, I still play it. Like I still play it regularly. And well, they just had a new expansion come out recently too,
right.
In tandem with that. That is also it's a spy thriller, and I thought that was really a cool connection to the genre because I didn't really think about, but it makes so much sense. Like 007 had all the gadgets, right?
Yep.
There's
I
intrigue.
definitely was thinking 007
Yeah.
and intrigue and spy stuff when reading Neuromancer for that matter. Yeah,
Yeah, and it totally makes sense, and I just hadn't really made that connection. But there's so much, espionage and double crossing and motivations and ambition, all that stuff. So, and I think that's why, I think some of that stuff comes up in a lot of the movies and stuff we've been talking about too. So
absolutely.
it just shows up in so many fun ways. There's another really good movie that is older that explores this idea, but it's not like a hard-boiled detective movie. It's about a friendly AI that basically goes nuts and conquers the world. It's called Colossus: The Forbidden Project.
That sounds so good. Wait, you said there's a movie?
Yeah, movie.
I want to see
It's
that.
like kind of like the 70s, I think, maybe early 80s, but yeah.
Why isn't that something I've ever heard of before?
It's so good. Yeah, Colossus: The Forbidden Project. The name is so stupid, but it makes sense when you get in there because it's like the name of the AI that's created. So it's so cool, and it's like very eerie now to watch it. Go back and watch it.
Because it's starting to be very real life.
Yep. And the other movie along that theme is the original Westworld movie, which was actually really, really good. And was written by Michael Crichton.
The book.
Yeah,
he wrote the original screenplay, or
he wrote a movie?
A book.
Westworld, the screenplay. The movie was written by Michael Crichton.
Okay.
Yep. And starred Yul Brynner, who was also in Magnificent Seven. But the funny thing in Westworld, he was also playing a cowboy.
Yeah.
But he was an android, and he was slaughtering all the guests at the park, kind of like if you've seen the Westworld TV show.
Yeah.
It's also amazing. And actually, cyberpunk, right?
You think it's cyberpunk? I would think it's pure sci-fi, but what makes it cyberpunk?
Well, if you get to
also
see,
like what do
3 or 4.
But wait, do cyberpunk people get uppity about that sort of thing?
They do. That's the funny part. So I'm careful with that. But I think if you watch through Westworld and the greater context of the world, it is definitely cyberpunk because the rebellious use of technology that's happening, but they flipped the script to where they're empowering the machines to reclaim their humanity from the park owners and the corporations.
Yeah.
And they get out of the park. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but the story goes out of the park in some areas, and Aaron Paul becomes like a character, like a blue collar worker character who's working with some of the android characters, and basically there's a whole new plot around like corporate oppression and overthrowing the system and stuff. And there's even an app where you can take on jobs. So it's like, imagine like a Hinge or Tinder or something, and you swipe mercenary jobs that you want, and you click, and then they hire you, kind of like TaskRabbit.
That's pretty
and you
cool.
go and do them.
That's not that far from reality. I bet that exists. And we just don't know about it. It's in the dark web.
Yeah, but I don't think, the original Westworld, maybe not, but the show I think was.
Got it.
Sure. Yeah.
That's cool. What other recent cyberpunk stuff has come across?
Yeah. I actually, this isn't as recent, I guess. I really enjoyed the second Blade Runner movie.
Oh, yeah?
A lot, yeah. And I think that they did Denis Villeneuve, right? Did a really good job of continuing on the tone and making the story make sense.
Yeah. I hate to admit it, but I still haven't seen it. I feel awful.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to get on that, man.
Get that.
It's good.
Go to the top
yeah,
of
it's
the
really
list.
good. There was also an anime recently for Cyberpunk.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's go. That anime is out of control.
That was really good.
It's so good.
Honestly, like the anime, like hot take when it came out was better than the game until they fixed the game. But the
I don't
anime
think that's a hot take
so
at all.
good.
I think that anime is top.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
it was
that thing
just
is so good.
Yeah, it's so unexpected. And again, the themes, right?
Yep.
Of like
it's the themes.
Yeah, technology versus humanity, and how far can you push yourself before you lose that humanity, and what are the consequences of that? And how does that impact human relationships beside you, and what is life worth? I think too. Like, there's so much violence in that fucking show.
Well, I was about to
It's just
say
like-
that, like, don't get me wrong, I love the violence, but
Yeah.
There's
so
what makes
much
it great
emotion,
is
too.
not just the emotion. Yeah, it's the emotion and the
Yeah.
subversive storytelling and
Yeah.
oh man. Okay, so I'm not in trouble here, but so we're on a level right now that includes a area called the Bailey or Bailey.
Yeah.
It's like a arena with fighting and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And you want to make it there generally because you can get inside and generally just collect up a bunch of good loot and some good XP while you go in there. But you got to find it on the level that you're on before the door closes to it.
Oh shoot.
If I had
Well,
a
Bailey's like in like a castle wall, right?
yeah,
Okay. So it's like a room like in the dungeon.
yeah,
Okay. They're just trying to use that. It was like dungeon babble instead of
babble.
technobabble. Dungeon babble.
Technobabble, dungeon
Yeah,
babble, exactly.
yeah.
So, but I can't. And I want to. And a minute ago, let's see on the messages. So first we got here. We heard a very distant portcullis. So we want to get to this portcullis, and then you hear the roar of battle, and then you hear the faint creaking of very distant portcullis. And then I've been trying to move closer to it. I haven't found it yet. But I want to go this direction or over here, but I can't risk like just running away from these dudes. But I definitely don't want to be where I am, so I'm gonna.
Well, they see you, right? They're gonna come at you.
All these dudes see me. They're gonna come at me. I think the least risky thing to do is to come down here. I could come over here, but there might be more dudes over here, and that would be dangerous. So this is more advantageous for me for finding the portcullis in time, but I think the smarter move is just to stay alive, see how long we can make this run last, and go down here instead. So this will only let 2 things hit me at once. Oh, actually I can go further down and only get hit by 1 thing at a time.
So I have a list I prepared.
Yes, okay.
Of honorable mentions or pop culture things that I feel like were either heavily influenced by cyberpunk or are like things that people should know if they wanted to get into this genre.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to like seed those slowly as you play and talk about each one.
Okay, let's go. Yes.
Okay. The first one is Judge Dredd.
The entire Judge Dredd or the first movie Judge Dredd?
The entirety of like the AD 2000 universe is
Okay.
Is like, but I think we could talk about the Stallone. I want to talk about the Stallone movie first.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So most people's intro to Judge Dredd is the Stallone movie.
Yep. There's 2 things I want to talk about on that.
Okay,
that I
let's start there.
remember.
Start there. Go.
And then of course I want to talk about Carl Urban.
The Carl Urban one
and
is so absolutely
so
fantastic.
good.
It's so
Yeah.
good. Let's just stop
Lena
watching the
Headey and
Let's just stop doing
Amy-
the podcast and go watch it right now.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Can we please get more Carl Urban as Dredd?
Yeah. Olivia Thirlby.
She's
Lena
so
Headey.
great.
Yeah. Dom Hall Gleason was in that too. It's just so good. Yeah. So yeah, Judge Dredd. Okay. One thing I remember about the 2 things I remember about the Stallone movie. One is that he had his helmet on for approximately 30 seconds.
Because they can't cover up that beautiful face.
The moneymaker, I mean, like, okay, I get it. It's Stallone. But then the other thing I remember was a buddy cop movie with Rob Schneider.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and I was like, what the? I remember one specific line.
Okay, I've officially hit the level of this game where now I just think I'm God level. So we're heading into that level of like I might make mistakes.
That's how you
exactly.
Yeah.
You brought it up earlier. Of this is like I've hit the level of play where I'm like, oh, I'm just crushing everything. It's impossible to beat me. I have to be very careful about that.
Right.
I did find the portal though, so we're gonna go through this in plenty of time.
I'm gonna have to watch the Stallone one again, but I just remember him running around screaming, "I am the law."
I am the law, totally.
I am the law. It was so. Yeah.
I am the law.
And then Rob Schneider's like, "What? Why are you doing that? What? I'm Rob Schneider." And so that's the movie.
very similar time of film history and a far superior sci-fi movie, but I wonder whether it has cyberpunk in your heart or not, is Demolition Man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Demolition Man is cyberpunk. I think it is.
Okay, so we'll look at, okay, so what? Let's pause for a second. What sci-fi that isn't? It has to have the rebellious use of technology. I think that's your core thing.
Yep.
And I can see that. So like,
yeah.
Star Wars doesn't have that. It doesn't have.
It's got the rebellion,
but it's got rebellion, but it doesn't have the rebellious use of technology.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there could be elements of like if we try to classify a genre, we're gonna get in some.
We're getting in trouble. Okay.
I think there could be like.
And Dune is sci-fi. It's almost fantasy though.
I think Dune is sci-fi, like some fantasy elements because there's like low magic, right? Low magic.
Right. Okay, but Demolition Man,
like Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones is low magic, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's fantasy.
Yeah, that's fantasy.
I think I can distinguish fantasy from cyberpunk very well, but you've been blurring the line with sci-fi and cyberpunk in a way
I don't think Star Trek is cyberpunk.
Right, because it's not a rebellious use of technology. There's a massive amount of use of technology, but it's not like for stealing shit and like.
But there might be like a plot line where like some
bad guy is doing that. Yeah, but
yeah. There's elements of it, but yeah, I think overall like Star Trek. I don't think Star Wars is cyberpunk. I think
it's also got to have. It's also got to. To me, it's got to have the anti-corporate ethos at a lot of the core of it.
The planet Coruscant and like the Shadows of the Empire plotline and all that stuff is cyberpunk.
Okay, yeah,
within those stories are right. But Star Wars overall is not.
But what makes Demolition Man cyberpunk is the little things that talk about how corporations have taken over things, like how the police force is sponsored by Taco Bell.
Having sex through a headset.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, I don't think there's any question on that.
The getting a demerit through a little scrolly thing, no matter where you are, if you swear, a little thing gives you a ticket out of a little scrolly thing in every room.
Yeah, you know what other movie kind of had that was Fifth Element, but that's definitely more sci-fi action, I think.
Yeah.
But I love that, there were little parts of that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It shows any. Yeah, you had a question earlier about do people get uptight about the definition? Of course they do. Everybody has an opinion, right? But if I'll stick to that principle of high tech, low life, and then the rebellious use of technology, which I've spent a lot of time thinking about that one line, and I think it fits pretty well.
I think it's great. Did you coin that?
I read it somewhere. I didn't come up with it, but it definitely resonated enough. I was like, okay, I think it might have even been in a Wikipedia article or something. But
this kobold is throwing boomerangs at me from across the river here. I can't walk across that river, so I'm just let's have a boomerang fight with this kobold.
Yeah, I want to see the boomerang.
Oh, he's dead. What an idiot!
Nice.
Oh, Akawaru loved that. Don't throw boomerangs at me, you idiot. I'll throw them right back at you until you're dead. Just like that. Let's throw boomerangs at each other, everyone. This
one movie we didn't talk about here. We didn't talk about the newer Dread movie.
Okay, so that movie is fantastic. First of all, I'm an unbelievably huge fan of The Raid.
Yeah,
that came out just the year or two after.
It was around the same time frame.
It's about, I think it was maybe less than 2 years after, but it is undeniable that they're the same movie. Just with one of them is in the 82,000 universe. Is it 82,000?
I think it's something like that, yeah. Yeah, I think so. AD 2000.
Whereas the other one is just some Filipino dude or some Indonesian dude just kicking everyone's ass.
Yeah.
But I just was like, this...
That was a good movie, too.
You'd think that one would be upset.
The plot was the same.
That the plot is exactly the same, but I don't care. I loved it. It was perfect. It can be the same.
I really love the slow-mo drug in the
absolutely
Dread movie.
Lena Headey was so good. She's and I think she was mid or very early in. No, I think she was also doing Terminator at the time.
Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Yeah, Sarah
Dude,
Connor
that's
Chronicles, which
also
I
cyberpunk.
loved.
Also cyberpunk.
The whole the whole Terminator universe is cyberpunk.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I would
See, I
say
don't
so.
know if you
I think,
get too dystopian, where it's post-apocalyptic, can it still be?
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay,
I
well,
think.
of course, you could.
Well, there's a really good movie called Nemesis that I like. It's a cyberpunk movie, but it's a little bit more dystopian, like almost on the edge of apocalyptic. But there's just enough technology and there's just enough structure left to society for there to be some level of like large scale iron hand like around everything.
Absolutely. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Do
and
you
so I
think?
think that
Go on.
that's a necessary element.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
has to be
But
some level of something
yeah, I
having
think
an
what
overarching ownership
yeah,
of everything.
but here's the guiding principle again. Like that's apocalyptic dystopian is low tech because it's like there's not a whole lot of tech left.
Yep.
So people are like Fallout, right? People are scrounging for tech, and it's just not as like pervasive.
Yep.
And so high tech, low life. So yeah, I think
I
that's
like that
maybe the
phrasing,
distinction
too. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everybody has technology and is plugged into everything, but they have no money.
Do you think we'll get another Dread? I hear rumors, or I don't hear them. I read.
It's been
rumors.
over 10 years now.
Yeah, but I think Carl Urban would do it.
Yeah, I mean he's pretty wrapped up in The Boys, right? I think
Yes.
he's really good in that. So I think he's more than proven that he can carry a franchise or two.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
They should give us more of that. That movie was just too good, and they should give us more of it.
Yeah, I think like cyberpunk is becoming more prevalent, and they're working on a Blade Runner live action series right now. There was also a Blade Runner animated show recently, Black Lotus.
I didn't know about that.
Yep, and that one felt more like Ghost in the Shell. It was a lot, but they were trying to go a little bit heavier on the action, and so it was a little bit more weeby anime-ish. And I was like, I still watched it and I liked it, but it was not, to me, didn't feel like the Blade Runner universe.
Yeah.
I really liked the Ghost in the Shell, by the way, with ScarJo. Did you watch that one?
Yes, I did, and I think that is almost criminally underrated. I think it is like negatively reviewed almost, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was very good and very faithful, and I think she did a great job depicting the character, and the action was gruesome and intense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like Michael Pitt was amazing too.
Absolutely.
He's always I think the whole thing was underrated too. And think about like the android kabukis in that.
Yes.
Were just, I think they were created by like Weta Workshop or something, like one of the like really prominent special effects studios. And that was just overall a really cool movie to just look at.
Yeah, to look at. It's a fantastic movie to look at.
Yeah. All right, so that I said Judge Dredd.
Yes.
One that we didn't touch on was Total Recall.
I love Total Recall with a fiery passion. I took a film class in college, like Film 101, Intro to Film or something, and that was one of the films we talked about. And it is just an absolute work of art.
Yeah.
It's like important to...
And of course, we're talking about the 80s version, if anybody listening is...
Right.
Yeah, I do want to get back to that RoboCop conversation before we end, but yes, I agree.
It's important to that movie is so good, it's important to a growing mind to really dissect it. To understand the layers of complexity of self-doubt and misunderstanding of what one is and what does it mean to be oneself, and the epistemology of of existence, and like it's all inside of a hilarious action movie with a three-titted Mars woman and Arnold's face melting and all sorts of great things. But like that's totally irrelevant compared to the pure like questioning of reality that movie completely imbues. It's fantastic. Oh my god, you could get me ranting just about that movie.
Yeah, I mean it is the one, right? It
is.
And a little there's a TV series that I think, hold on a second.
These dudes I'm dealing with right now are trouble.
Hold on a second. I remember. I don't want to misquote the name. Okay, so there's a TV show that was on Canadian TV or something, but it was
what?
Total Recall 2070. It was called.
Oh, I feel like I heard of this.
Okay, so it's a like 12-part miniseries, but all it is capsule episodes of different Philip K. Dick storylines.
Really?
And like, but it's all weaved together. And it is a harder noir tone than even the Blade Runner movie was. It is viciously like somber and dark, but it's 12 episodes long, and it's one of the best. Like, it's one of my favorite shows to watch.
Oh wow!
It is just so well made, very underrated as well. But it explores like all of the themes we've been talking about too.
That's an epic recommendation. I think people.
Yeah.
Can you really quick check online and see where it's available? Or
you can. So they did the first episode as a movie, so it's called Machine Dreams. So you can go and watch that first episode, and if you like it, I think you can buy the subsequent episodes on Amazon or a couple other streaming services. But I would just buy the whole thing because it's so good. But if the first episode thing doesn't hook you, like, you're not going to like the rest because it's that same dark tone. If you don't like the main guy, I like him a lot. He's good, but the cast is good. Yeah, I think it's overall just a really great show. And
my girl Kelly is going to love that
like
recommendation. I think that's one she's going to be really into.
Yep. My second, I guess, recommendation coming off of that, if I'm talking recommendations, is the show Almost Human.
I haven't seen it, but it comes recommended to me.
Yep, and that's got your boy Carl Urban in it as well.
Yep. He's so great, man. I love him so much. I love him as Bones in Star Trek. He's absolutely so perfect as Bones.
And then you have Michael Ealy as his partner. So it's a pretty good, good chemistry. Cast. Yeah, it's good. So yeah. Couple things, but Total Recall is just an absolute masterpiece, and Running Man too in that same era, really good. Like he was in like every cyberpunk movie, if you think about, or Arnold. Like every
Running Man is the movie version of it lacks sufficient anti-capitalism for my taste, specifically compared to the book.
Yeah.
And tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
I would truly love to see the book, Running Man, made as faithfully as possible to the book. The level of dire dread that exists in the book version, and the sufficient acknowledgement that that the Running Man game is essentially it's much better done as Squid Game. Yeah. What Squid Game does with the level of understanding that this is people in dire situations that choose this, as opposed to in Running Man, I think he chooses it because he's in prison, or I think he's kind of forced into it. I think the movie, because he gets arrested or something and forced into it. But in the movie, in the book, it's because the guy, like his family is like dying or something of cancer or something. He needs to get money to help his kid or something.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, they had to change it, right? Because that's too sad to watch. And then
that's the point. It's not. Yeah. There's plenty of movies that have that shit. That's really sad.
I know. I'm just messing, but it's like they ignored that because what they ended up doing instead was, remember, they tried to break out of the prison camp with the collars, and then
Yes.
the guy's head exploded. Like, that was another formative memory for me. My dad showed me that Running Man for the first time. I think it was like right after RoboCop, watching a guy's head explode because his prison collar went over the line and
Yeah.
his head blew off. Yeah.
Let's go back
Anyway.
to RoboCop before we forget.
Yeah. So, RoboCop again. The themes of just humanity and identity, man versus machine, but also like in the context of Detroit, and just it being absolutely like the whole vibe of that movie is that Detroit is completely overrun and lawless.
Yeah.
And the cops are basically getting murdered left and right.
Yeah, but the corporations are doing just fine.
And the corporations are just fine, except when they're not, and when someone that's so cutthroat that you could die at any time.
Right.
And I like that. That's very cyberpunk as well. It's like
that's the top
backstabbing.
of cyberpunk to me.
And you know what? Like, it's so accurate to like the right now. Like, the violent like rhetoric of violence is just so prolific now too, that like people are empowered to be more. And like that's the natural progression of violence is a commodity. That's a big theme as well. And I think we're seeing some
there you go.
Rumblings of that here. So RoboCop has all of that, right? It's like fucking. I love how they bring the Ed 209 into the meeting, and it just blows the guy away.
Blows
it's like
everybody away,
and everyone's like, "Clean up this mess." After it's like, no, it's not that they were like shocked that someone was murdered there. No. It was like the audacity that someone's presentation didn't go right.
Yep.
And that was just absolutely incredible.
That is so incredible. It falls into this genre or this like area of people like thinking that's just a funny action thing, right? Like, or like just goofiness for action, but it's not. There's a real message happening in that like disgustingness of that.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's indicative of Paul Verhoeven's like satire as well, because he puts all like the commercials are my favorite part of any of his movies, because like he'll have that like I'll buy that for $1. Like it's a guy he's basically we're watching a guy get lap dances, and like it's so fucking like we do that now. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's like Twitch hot tub streams and stuff. But yeah, I just think it's so brilliantly done, and a lot of people miss that subtext. You're right, like in Starship Troopers as well. People didn't realize that
it took forever to people to really like get behind the understanding of like how much of a subversive anti-capitalist story that is.
Well, it's also satire or a criticism of the industrial war complex. And a criticism
of the action sci-fi genre in and of itself.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's also the case for RoboCop.
Oh yeah, and I think those two things are very much related.
The latter is so important to me. I truly put movies way too high on my love list because of their ability to criticize, subversively criticize film itself. I don't want to head outside of our conversation too much, but the movie that sits at the top of that list for me is Funny Games from last week, the horror perspective. Like movie is the truest form of criticism of film itself, and the fact that people only see it as a scary movie about whatever it's about completely misses the point. And I'm not going to go into too much more about it because it's totally off topic. But
no. Both versions. I mean, I think
both versions. Well, they're shot-for-shot remakes, and they're made by the same guy.
They're shot-for-shot. Yeah. But both versions are very good. Like, what is what I'm saying. Like, if you only wanted to watch one, I think it's worth a watch for anybody, even if they don't want to confront the. Anyway, we don't have to go there. But recommendation if you can stomach it. A little bit of uncomfortable stuff.
Yes.
Put it that way. Yep.
Ooh, I'm literally frozen right now. That's bad.
Yeah. What's going on here? You're actually frozen.
So this thing froze me. I don't think it'll last long.
Yeah.
And plus, nobody else can hit me except for this Drake. It's not that dangerous. It says it's dangerous, but it's not. This thing is trouble, and there's another one behind it somewhere. But I can probably beat it. I definitely got a hero right now, because So okay, so here's the two. So we've started to have Akawaru love and fall in love with. He now calls us Myrmidon. That's our new title.
Is that procedurally generated as well?
I think that it's set levels. I don't know actually. Our title might be procedurally generated, but the favor level is definitely levels that you get to. So we're at level 3 love from Akawaru, a shining star in the eyes of Akawaru. So he loves us a lot. So we can definitely speed up, or we can speed up. That's definitely necessary in this moment.
Well, I've heard like the word Myrmidon. I've heard it literally means like a person who's devoted to like a servant or something.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's so. It might be procedurally generated
from
a list of many
list of, I see what you mean.
God-focused words, like
gods.
Priest. Yeah. Okay, so we killed that Drake. Okay, now we definitely need to speed up or hero. I'm a hero right now.
Nice. One. Okay.
We're in trouble.
You're in trouble. Yep.
But that's okay. We're gonna figure this out. I think. I'm gonna take a haste.
Is this the farthest you've got on the show?
This is the farthest I've made it on the show for sure.
Nice.
This is the first time we've been in the lair, and we're going to quaff some. We're fast and slow.
Yeah, so it's
that's the first time I've seen that.
It cancels out.
It
just and you're also a hero, so
get this guy, get him. There we go, Drake. You're gone next. See ya.
Come on, take that snail down.
Vorpal snail. You're gone.
Snail fail.
Now we run.
Boom!
Away.
Got him.
Get him. See ya.
Yeah.
We're getting out of here. Let's run away. Go hide in a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Reheal.
Oh my, you gotta heal. Dude, that was intense. Like, that's as intense as this game gets, right?
No, it gets much worse. I get it specifically. It's the worst when I have a friend on the show who I haven't talked to in like almost a year, and then I get into that situation like 8 minutes into the show.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Now I think we've gone far enough into the cyberpunk conversation that like if something goes wrong in the game, like that's not the end of the world.
We have a solid amount of content here.
We have lots of content. And
yeah,
we're but we're
RoboCop,
getting snakes and stuff coming at us.
Oh shit!
Oh, so did you want to come back to
snakes? I think I'm good. Like, we don't have to continue talking about RoboCop. I think we both agree it's one of the best movies ever made.
And Joel Egerton is great in it.
Yes.
See, I can do callbacks. So
Joel Kinnaman is okay. So let's talk about Joel Kinnaman for a second. What was the show that he was in? The TV show he was in, where they were like The Killing. So I fucking love The Killing, by the way.
So great.
Yeah, I really love that show. I love the other gal that's in it. I can't remember her name. The actress as well. She's super good.
The tone is so perfect.
Yeah, and like I went into, I'm a big Joel Kinnaman fan. Let's just put that on the record.
Yes.
I went into RoboCop like with a +2 to my perception or whatever of like what it was going to be like, and I couldn't do it, man, because they PG-13'd it.
Yes,
is absolutely. What
they did.
And I still like thought it was visually cool and like, but RoboCop to me is not fast. Okay.
I think that's a debatable point, but go on.
Okay. In my mind, he's more like, well, if he has his jetpack, maybe.
I just don't think he needs to be slow by definition.
No, not at all.
That's
but, like,
something they could have played with. The rest of the things you're about to say are worthy criticisms, but they could have played with, okay, but in our version, RoboCop is fast.
Okay, that's fine, fair. 2, there's some weird thing they did with Peter Weller that hit the uncanny valley so well.
Okay, yes. The way that his face.
And if you look at RoboCop's face, it is like people they draw back, right?
Yep.
That I did not get that from Joel Kinnaman at all. I thought that was a missed opportunity. I
can buy that.
Yeah, I just didn't think like the brutality and the violence of the world in the first one translated to the second one.
That's where you're the most right. You're right about all this, but you're most right about the lack of brutality, and I don't think it had sufficient anti-capitalism in it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, and throwing like actual themes of the
See,
story and stuff.
Akuaru is falling in love with us. He granted us some throwing weapons. Let's see what they are.
One other topic that we didn't talk about too much too was music.
Oh, really? Oh, so you wanna? Yeah, you
Yeah.
have some cyberpunk music. I didn't expect you to say that. So tell me more.
Yeah, so there's not so much like specific recommendations or anything like that, but I just think it is there's an element of that rebellion again that comes up a lot in like music and
Oh,
like
I see.
synth, like that synth
Yes.
sound is so ingrained in that, and I think it's because of the technological themes. Obviously, like synthesizers go so well with that like synth soaked.
Absolutely. I thought
thing,
you were
but
gonna
I
bring
don't.
some cyberpunk musician or
I
DJ
do. I have. Yeah, no,
recommendations
I have a
of late.
few. I have a few. One really good recommendation is Perturbator.
Okay.
And
I've never heard of any of these, so I'm not
yeah,
gonna repeat myself over and over.
yeah,
This is
and
fantastic.
yeah, Perturbator is like a producer, and he like his stuff could be lifted directly out of like a Terminator movie or John Carpenter movie or something, like just think about like that really synth soaked.
Yep.
But like also kind of like really have some of the tracks are bangers, like dancing stuff like that. He's got like a song called Tech Noir, which is the bar from Terminator. Like,
Yeah.
so it's definitely inspired by that kind of, I guess, stuff. I really like his stuff, yeah.
Anybody else?
And yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, there's a lot, a lot of. It's so popular right now. This like retro.
It is. It is.
Synth stuff. Like another one is FM84. They're a little bit more poppy, but they kind of hit on that. I feel like though, like what resonates with me a lot more with cyberpunk seems to be this like goth industrial type stuff. Like, it's hard to put a pin in, but a good example of this is every mission in the Cyberpunk 2077 game is named after a song.
Oh, really?
In the real world, yeah. So one of the recent ones is Sisters of Mercy song called Lucretia My Reflection. And there's just something about like the lyrics and the way that forms, and it's just so like anti-establishment, but it's also like fun and cool, and yeah, it's just like the music that encapsulates this genre is just so interesting to me too.
Badass.
But then it can go from something like Vangelis, who did this Blade Runner soundtrack, that are these like synthetic soundscapes, to something that is like driving punk rock. Yeah, it's just so
totally.
cool.
And they do that. They do that in the movies though too. When they go to different locations.
Yeah,
it goes all
totally.
over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. There's always like a pounding backdrop to that.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about it, but it is totally a genre. It's a great work music genre.
Yeah, who in my mind I have one more honorable mention, that is what I would consider the pinnacle of what I'm trying to talk about here. And it's the Tron movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Daft Punk soundtrack.
Yes, absolutely. Oof. Oh, I want to go back and watch that again. The remake.
Yeah, it's
the reboot.
Yeah, Terry and I watched it again a few weeks ago.
And did you love it?
Oh my god, yeah. We had like the volume pumped all the way up, and
oh yes,
like the house was shaking, and yeah, it was awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna get in on that. That's going on my list.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another good one. Yep.
Okay, so we haven't talked about...
Roll!
Okay, well, let's do another identify.
Do that one?
Let's do an identify run. Two of them this time.
Let's do C. Let's do C.
Okay. Vulnerability, that's sad. That's not what we want. Okay, give me a potion this time.
Okay, and then let's do N.
That's okay. So ambrosia is a healing potion.
Okay,
but it makes you confused while you're healing.
Well, you could like go stand somewhere, take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This thing, so these got these new things called talismans in the game. I don't even know how to play with them, so that's not going to happen. So if you're a fan of DCSS and want to learn more about that, go to some other person's stream. That's not this stream. We're not learning how to play new things because we're a minotaur, we're a fighter. The talismans like make you transform into other stuff.
Mm.
I'm guessing this one transforms you into a blade.
Mm.
I just picked it up. Let's look at it for a second. Jagged cluster of blades, almost impossible to grasp without injury, causes long, needle-thin blades to grow from the user's hands and smaller fragments of metal to grow inside their body, deforming them and reducing the effectiveness of body armor. Shapeshifting skill mitigates and eventually eliminates the latter effect, as well as increasing damage dealt. Well, I'm kind of interested in this now.
Yeah, I think this looks interesting.
HP would be very, very low because we have bad shapeshifting skill. I don't want this. It's not good enough. 23 damage is not enough.
No.
So we're not going to do this. We're just going to drop this. Okay. But yeah, because we're a minotaur and we fight things, we punch it.
Yeah.
We hit it with
just
axes.
Punch your problems.
Yes, punch the problems away.
Yeah.
Okay, here's where we need to do this important thing. Oh gosh, we need to do this important thing right now. Although this guy's not that dangerous. I've ran into this guy before in the lair, and I'm usually he's double red, but in this moment he's just regular dangerous. He still can be a big trouble. I'm not gonna fuck around. But now we immediately need to transition into one of the things you said you wanted to bring up with me, which is, and you brought it up a little bit earlier, Metal Gear Solid and its like ownership over this. Its existence inside of this universe of cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep, of course. So yeah, so I think we'll rewind the tape again to the 90s and talk about Hideo Kojima before we talk about Metal Gear Solid. So okay. Hideo Kojima, like one of the bigger video game figures, made Metal Gear Solid, most recently Death Stranding, but started out in the 80s with Metal Gear, the original, which was on the Famicom, which is a Japanese console, and did not come out. It came out on Nintendo as well. But all of his games, like throughout history, have had these like seeds of references to pop culture and things like that. And you'll see like recurring themes in his video games that nod back to cyberpunk. And I think one of his most notable games that digs into this is a game called Snatcher.
I don't know that game at all.
Oh yeah, Snatcher. So Snatcher is like a point and click like narrative story thing. It had some light gameplay elements in it as well. And I would definitely recommend like go on YouTube and watch a Let's Play of it because it's really fun.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's like you play as a detective. You got a little robot sidekick. His name is Metal Gear, which is obviously connected to the other game. And but anyway, so yeah, as the series progressed, like Metal Gear Solid came out, and this was on the PlayStation, and that's where things started to get a little bit more overtly involved with like some cyberpunk themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's again around like that technology being so pervasive, but that game like dove into cloning, things like that. And the game, like the world just kept getting bigger around this mythos of these characters and how technology has, I guess, enhanced their combat abilities, their prowess on the battlefield. Like and it's silly too. Like there are characters as well who, like one guy can control bees using like nanomachines. There's another guy who like has transformed himself into a vampire using nanomachines.
Yep.
But there's also this underlying pervasive theme that the government is controlling things, that you may not be in charge of your own agency, those types of things. Mm-hmm. And whose allegiance do you have? Those types of things. And then as the game series progresses more and more, they're just like wacky technological things that they keep incorporating to the point where they released the game Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and the entire game is just the character from the second stealth game. He's full cyborg now with a like katana and like a dog robot sidekick, like going around murdering things and trying to fight other like nano machine guys, and
That's
it's just so
wild.
over the yeah. So it's like it's just like a touchstone for me and one of my favorite games to
Well, how much is the
play.
creator involved in every single thing?
Yeah, he's like and I think that's one thing to note too. Hideo Kojima, going back to the director, I mean, he like sees himself as basically like a movie director, right?
Yeah,
And if you go back and like review his games, it's totally right, like
absolutely.
totally. But one thing that like he's regarded as sometimes going a little bit off the rails with his storytelling.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
So while he is a very like regarded, he also needs editing. And so yeah, so like Death Stranding to me, like the most recent game he came out with was arguably one of the most dystopian like uh environments you could think of. It was oddly reminiscent of like the COVID situation. In that game, everyone lives in a bunker because these crazy ghosts roam the surface of the planet,
Yep.
and there are people who go and deliver packages to the people and help them connect their internet and shit so that they can communicate with each other. And it's like, but the plot and actual story, like around what was happening, like the ghosts coming out of the ground and like these other alternate dimensions and shit, like the shit went off the rails on the storyline.
Right, right.
And so like I like Norman Reedus was the main actor in it,
Yeah.
and I really like him. And I knew the game was going to be about, and I kind of loved that. But and it ended up being really good. But the gameplay was good. The story was out of this world, crazy.
I think that he should not. I hear that all the time from folks
Yeah.
that he should rein it in and
Yep.
just keep it from losing. And I just don't think it would be the same. I don't think it would mean as
Yeah.
much to the people that are in love with this if it didn't have that element of surprise and insanity of just
Yeah.
like, I mean, insanity is truly the best word of it, of like
Yeah.
it doesn't fit anything and it's totally crazy, and fourth wall breaking too is also really relevant inside of
Yeah.
MGS, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I like Death Stranding. I thought it was like a masterpiece, but some people like the common prevailing opinion
Become
was
really
that the story
off the
was
rails.
wild. But
Yeah,
there's a second one coming out, so
I mean, they
clearly
made plenty of money. It was very successful.
made an yeah. I'm gonna play it. I really liked it.
I still haven't played that. It I think I'm gonna end up watching a let's play instead.
Yeah.
It's on my
I think
list. I keep avoiding watching a let's play because I want to play it through. But I
yeah.
just now with Starfield and a few other things, I just have a long list of things to do. And by
I'm
the way,
gonna
the
say
pretty much
something.
only gaming I do is try to beat this game at this point. So
Yeah,
until I beat
that's true.
this, there's very little else on the list.
I will tell you this is gonna sound really bizarre, but my emotional attachment to the stupid baby in a jar on his chest was unreasonable. And
um,
like there's a story beat where I fucking bawled.
yeah.
And I won't say
Okay, so
anything more,
maybe I
but
won't.
like the game is like if you watch a let's play, I'm just worried you might not
Okay,
have
maybe
that
I gotta hold it.
experience.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you don't do, I would skip. Like there's a lot of building and shit like that, resource gathering stuff like that. So you might want to skip to the story parts
Okay.
if you do. Yep.
What other things are we missing? Any other genre within the genre? Any like
Yeah.
medium that is
Well,
that we're missing?
there's one last thing that I will say we did not mention that it would be weird if we didn't is Akira.
Oh baby, I just watched that recently for
Yeah.
fun. Nobody even brought it up, but I just was like, I gotta rewatch
Nice.
this.
Yeah. And that one
Um,
is just like that is a cornerstone for a lot of
absolutely.
things, like even including my artwork, which I would say is leaning into
God
that.
damn it, that's the thing that we almost didn't even talk about is your art, like and how it plays
Yeah.
into not just your art, but the your comic book. I'm not. This
Yeah,
doesn't have to be
absolutely.
a promo, but like, yeah. I mean, can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about how it's influenced your art and how it's influenced your comic book? Well, come. I mean, like, if we miss you've touched on Akira, so like,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it more. Like,
yeah.
let's talk about your comic book because I think
Well, yeah, I
that
think I mean Akira, a huge influence. I would say like the comic book that I've worked on with my friend Adam, which is called Junie Fringe, is more sci-fi space opera. But very gritty, very in line with like the aesthetic of cyberpunk.
I was gonna say the aesthetic that
Yep.
you bring to the table as the
Yeah.
artist has a very cyberpunk element, like all the little gadgets and all the little things like hanging off
Yeah.
the arms and stuff is, and then you also have a very big Escher influence, right?
I love all that stuff. Like my
Or Geiger,
posi-
Geiger, right?
Geiger. Yeah.
Geiger,
Well,
excuse me, that's what I meant.
I like HR Geiger as well. Another big one is Mobius, who's like a very
Mobius, right.
yep, yep, very famous like French artist who worked like was one of the founding people who created the aesthetic of what would later become cyberpunk, like the look and feel of it.
Yep.
There was a story he did with Dan O'Bannon in a magazine, a French magazine, Metal Hurlant, and that like a lot of the artwork out of that story was used in subsequent screenplay, like or sorry, for concept art for movies that came out right after that.
Oh
So
my god, really? I don't know
yeah,
anything. Yeah, you gave me so
I
many
don't know
openings
anything.
No, you just gave me so many openings of things I need to like start to learn about. Dan O'Bannon
Yeah,
and all these things. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know that.
Mo-
I don't know
yeah,
any of this. I need to spend some time with Mobius.
Mobius is dope. Yeah, and a huge influence for me. And but like the things that I've been doing for, I'm working on an art book that's coming out next year. It is going to be like a narrative-driven cyberpunk like fever dream. So,
Yeah, it's so lovely.
um,
That's awesome.
yeah. So I've been diving deeper into that like neon color scheme, hyper detail,
Oh, I want to
mirror.
see some neon stuff
Yeah,
out of your art.
yeah. If you
Ooh.
well, here's the plug. Here comes the plug. You
Okay,
ready?
plug. Yeah, ready.
Go to chromerat.com and you will see, yeah, and click on the gallery and you can look at some examples of my work,
Oh, nice. Good. Okay, there we go.
my
Good.
more recent work. And you ready for this?
Yes.
If you click on shop
Oh,
and
this is a
you,
real. This is
yeah,
get
no,
ready. Get ready, everybody.
this
Get
is the
ready.
real plug.
This is the real
If
plug.
you want to pick up the Junie Fringe first issue, you can do that. We also have the second issue coming out. It's literally being printed right now. It's at the printer being printed.
There's
We'll have that
literally
on
a
the
printer
site.
spitting out paper
Yeah,
right this second
yeah.
of the second issue.
I have prints. I have a hoodie, a few shirts, and some stickers as well. If anybody wants to check out my art or buy some stuff too.
I enjoy it. I really enjoy your art. I've told you
Thanks.
this before, and thus you can know that it's true because I'm saying it again and recording it for the people. But you just don't. You're very unique. The art is very individual,
Thank you.
and like there's plenty of dudes at the comic convention that are doing stuff that's like it looks like Jim Lee or whatever. It looks like it's trying to be 90s X-Men, and your stuff just isn't trying to be anything else. I mean, I know that you have influences. They're obviously there,
Yeah.
but it's just not trying to be anything else.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. And it's always cool when someone comes up to me and says, "I see this in your art," or "I see that in your art," and I'm like, "Oh my God, like that's actually an influence I've had."
Yeah.
And that's something that excites me, but I'm not trying to do what other people have done because I just do like I do you know what automatic drawing is?
No.
Okay. So one thing I love to do is just sit down with a pencil and start drawing stuff.
Yeah.
And I usually end up drawing machinery.
Yeah.
And for some reason I really like to think about like what does this piece on this person's neck do in this fictional universe that I've created?
That's
And
incredible because I bet there's all sorts of artists that like are just drawing machinery on people's necks and stuff, and they're
yeah.
just like, this is a thing. It's just like a pocket. Like,
Yeah.
who's the dude from the '90s X-Men and Cable? Rob Liefeld, right? Putting pockets
Yeah.
on everybody, and he doesn't know what's
Oh
in
my
all those pockets.
and yeah, I like let me be clear, I love a good pouch, okay? Good
Yeah,
pocket.
you do.
And I can't draw feet either, so Rob,
Rob, no problem.
if you ever listen to this, that's okay.
It's okay.
Um,
We
I
all
loved
have
his
our
like
problems with feet.
yeah. I loved his exaggerated proportions and just bullshit. Like I
Same.
love the way
I
like
love
it's
that
just
shit.
so ridiculous. It's
So
awesome.
ridiculous.
So yeah. No hate.
But I come from
Um
that. We
yeah.
come from that era, right?
exactly, yeah. But for my stuff, yeah. I mean, like I like to experiment, and I'm always trying to push myself to do just a little bit better. And yeah, I mean, I don't
So
know. I
you're
just
sitting
love
there
this shit.
thinking
Like
about like when you
I'm
put
drawing
it.
like I want to draw this for myself. Like I just drew a picture. I'll send it to you after for the podcast as well, of this like cyberpunk fugitive jumping out a window.
Oh my God! So guess what, everybody? We're gonna have exclusive art.
Yeah, and I'll
Um,
let you. Yeah, you can post it up.
that's awesome. That's incredible. But when you like going back to the point is like you when you draw a tube coming out of something, you actually take the time to think about what that's gonna be.
I do, but then again, like I don't. There's no continuity, so if you go to
Oh,
the
that's
next page,
fine. No, fair.
yeah, everything will morph. But I think that's okay. Like
I think
it's
it's
not
okay.
the consistency that matters. It's the idea of like machines in motion.
Yeah.
And also that's a really good excuse to not have to draw consistently.
Having to
I
draw
don't want
consistency.
I don't want to because like drawing the machinery, the bits and bobs and things is what relaxes me.
Yes.
And really it's me trying to sort out all of the crazy things going through my head all the time and make sense of them. It kind of helps me unwind and unravel.
Okay, so another topic that I absolutely wanted to cover inside of Cyberpunk, and we are absolutely out of time. I don't like these to go much more than 2 hours, but we'll cut some.
No worries.
Is the representation and diversity within the genre, within the characters, and what your... I know that you don't think of Junie Fringe as being cyberpunk, but your art does such a great job of representing. We saw multiple people come to your booth, you know, just saying that this speaks to me, you know, in a very diverse way. Like, people just feeling like they were outside of the... They were just interested in those, like, you know, like I said, Jim Lee style art, and they saw your art and felt included all of a sudden. And that exists within the genre as a whole, and that also spoke to you as a teenager too. I'm putting words in your mouth, but
No, you're right.
there's a better way to ask that question that a real host would do. But speak on this.
Yeah. I understand what you mean. Yeah, there's something intrinsic in what I do or what I'm drawing that resonates with people who are used to being on the outside or on the fringe.
And the genre has that as well.
Yeah. And I think there's something appealing about looking at something that's not traditionally in the male gaze, that is still in the style of something that is colorful, playful, yet tells a story and has a lot of movement and action and storytelling within it inherently. And that's what I'm going for, I suppose, because I like to look at that stuff. I like details, man. I like one really good artist I like is Jeff Darrow, who did a really cool cyberpunk story that was written by Frank Miller called Hard Boiled.
I've heard it. I've heard of it.
Yeah, and if you read that short story, it's like this detective is a cyborg, and he just progressively throughout. He's fighting every page, getting pieces blown off of him until at the end he's like just an exoskeleton. And it's like, God damn, there's like soda cans and like coins and pieces of paper and things. There's shit everywhere. And I'm like, this is amazing because I can just look at one picture and I can see so many things in it. And that's what I like to look at. So that's what I draw.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think that the overall genre has good diversity and representation? I think that Neuromancer specifically felt that way to me.
I think always, yeah. I think it always has, yeah. And I think it's cool, like Neuromancer especially. There was a whole undercurrent of like Voodoo culture and Jamaican culture that
the Jamaican culture thing stood
so
out to
cool.
me. Yeah, so cool.
Yeah. And the way that he tied that in, and I think it is like it has to, because our bodies are at the center of this, right? In control over that. And I think also, like, if you think about upgrading your body and you want to be whatever you want, like, of course that's appealing to people. And of course that resonates with the, like things like trans community who want control over that destiny or like what their identity is.
Absolutely.
And the ability in that future is that you can be whatever you want to be, and your outside doesn't have to be what it is now. And I think that's really cool because it's a good message around, like, you know, you can be whoever you want to be, but on the inside, I think it's more important than on the outside. But you can be whoever you want to be. I think that's a good message.
I think so
but
too.
I think in the cyberpunk world, it's a little bit has a bit of a negative connotation.
What do you mean there? That
It's like I think it's taking like this commoditization of bodies to the nth
yes,
degree.
right.
Yeah,
So it
where identity may not exist anymore.
right. But then
At
they
least
also
physically.
have the like transmogrification stuff of
Yeah.
like that it's totally like passe for you to have changed out your arm or your eye or
Yeah.
whatever for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, I think it calls into question like what is a self
Yep,
anymore if it's
totally.
not a physical body. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting to think about, and some people desire that, I suppose. Like,
Right.
yeah, I think
That
I
plays a
think
big
there's something.
factor in Neuromancer for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Um,
like that a lot. Yeah.
so you
You didn't
wanna?
die.
We didn't die. We are looking really sturdy. We finished layer
Yep.
3. We're gonna go to layer 4, finish that, and then head back up and do some other stuff. We found the entrance to the spider layer and the swamp. Oh, Prince Ribbit's still alive apparently up on D5. So I'll have to go deal with that.
Prince Ribbit sounds like a great like goal for the next episode.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll remember that for next episode.
Yeah. And yeah, if anybody wants to follow along my art, Instagram is at chrome.rat, and then the website is www.chromerat.com. So you
Absolutely,
can
check it
out
out,
some more of my stuff
please.
there.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am
Please.
so I'm actually really proud to be able to be a place for you to be able to promote because I don't think that I have. I don't. It's kind of fun to have somebody that wants to promote on my show of like 8 people.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I just love drawing.
You're doing such
And
great
so,
work. I think
thank
I'm
you.
really envious of the hard work you've put into it and impressed by the originality all the time.
I
So
appreciate that, man. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show as well. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad you didn't die.
yeah, I'm also glad, but I really enjoyed talking about the cyberpunk this whole time. I
Yeah,
feel like
thanks.
I
I'd
learned a lot. I have a
actually
huge list of things to watch and do now
nice.
thanks to this. Yes.
I've never actually talked out loud about it, so that's the funny thing.
Oh my god, that's
So
great.
it's kind of fun to like think about. Oh yeah, I know this. Oh yeah, I know this, and ride the stream of consciousness. So
Oh
it's cool
yeah,
to have an
totally.
opportunity to do that, man. Thanks for enabling me.
You're welcome. I had a great time. So I'll talk
Yeah.
to you soon.
Right on, dude.
All
All
right,
right.
bye now.